What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about at-home food sensitivity tests. Now, ever since I graduated from NTP school, this has been something that I've been really interested in for a couple of reasons. And I've noticed over the last couple of years, a lot of nutrition coaches suggest these at-home sensitivity tests to their clients, but not a lot of clients know exactly what the sensitivity test is testing for, the differences between a sensitivity, an allergy, and an intolerance. So today's video is going to break all of that down for you and hopefully give you the information that you need to decide whether or not you should take an at-home sensitivity test and if you should cut out the foods that it's saying to cut out. Okay, so let's talk about the process first. So I would say the biggest pro to this in my experience, and this is just for the Everlywell because that's the kit that I did. This is not sponsored. I paid for it with my own money. And the process of the entire test, sending it back and getting the results was definitely really easy and convenient. Obviously, you don't have to make an appointment. It's not ridiculously expensive. So there are some pros to this. But if you are someone who doesn't like to draw your own blood, which I am one of those people, and has a hard time putting the blood onto the paper, you will not like this because it does kind of require quite a bit of blood. And I mean, this is just my opinion. I don't know if other tests take as much as this one did, but I felt like it was a lot. And I was like squeezing my finger, what felt like forever. So if you don't like squeezing your finger to milk the blood out of your finger, I would not recommend. Other than that, you package it up in the box, you send it out, you download the app, and you wait for your results. So the basic food sensitivity test, which is the one that I did, tests for 96 foods. And then they also offer an extensive one, which tests, I think it was 204 different types of foods. Both the basic and the extensive test for an IgG response, which is an immunoglobulin G response. And it's important for you to know the difference because over the last couple of years, as these at-home tests have become more and more popular, immunologists and doctors and stuff, they don't typically recommend them for a true sensitivity test. And here's why. It also should be noted that these tests and most of the other ones, the other at-home kit tests, are not approved by the FDA in either the sense of just being an allergy or immune test, and they're just not approved in general. The American Academy of Allergy does not validate IgG testing as an accurate form of food sensitivity testing. So in our bodies, we have an immune system, obviously, and this was actually one of my favorite portions of NTP school, and it really broke down the difference between an IgG response, an IgE response, and IgA response, and there's a lot of different types, but the most important ones when it comes to nutrition typically are referred to IgG and IgE. So where people get confused is they think that just by having an IgG response to something automatically means that this food should be eliminated, and it is a negative correlation, meaning that if your body is giving you an IgG response to something, that you should eliminate it from your diet, and this is not necessarily the case. It has been shown that just because you have an IgG response to something, it does not always correlate with the fact that something is a true sensitivity and a true allergy. Can there be a correlation? Absolutely. Of course, if you have something that you know for sure contributes to IBS or migraines, and that's kind of like the two things that Everlywell in particular hones in on for its clients, is like on their website, they talk about having these symptoms of migraines and IBS symptoms and all that stuff, and how that they're an IgG response. And that's walking a little bit of a fine line because it's not always an IgG response. Can it be? Yes, absolutely, but not 100% of the time. So a lot of times you'll see, and I'll bring up my results and go through some of the things with you. The IgG response can sometimes just be a body's normal immune reaction to the food that you're eating. You might notice if you've taken an Everlywell kit test before that you've gotten a very high response for something that you eat daily, and that does not cause you any physical GI upset or any type of symptoms that you're looking to alleviate. So if that's the case, do you need to specifically cut out that food that you know for sure does not cause you any type of, irregularity or like dysfunction? Personally, I would say no. It's kind of useless if you know for sure, obviously, like you know your body better than anyone, but if you know for sure that it's not causing you any problems, there's really no need to eliminate that food just because a IgG specific test shows that you have an IgG response to that food. Okay, so the next thing that I think it's important for you to know is the difference between a food allergy, a food sensitivity, and a food intolerance, because they're all different. So as we discussed, the IgG response is showing a food sensitivity, sensitivity, although not always 100% of the time. But an allergy, a true food allergy, is going to show an IgE response. So the Everlywell kits, the majority of these at-home kits are not testing IgE, and that's very important to know. So sensitivity is IgG, allergy is IgE, and intolerance is actually neither. You can have an intolerance to something without having it show up on an IgG or an IgE test. And this is very confusing, and it's why most doctors, especially GI doctors, if you're watching this video because you have GI issues, they're always going to tell you to start with an elimination diet. Unfortunately, it is not the prettiest, of course, and it is going to take a lot of time and effort, and it can be very frustrating to go through elimination diets. I have done it myself multiple times throughout my life, and it's essentially just, you can do this one of two ways. Some nutritionists or doctors will recommend to cut out whatever it is that you suspect, like only one thing, out of your diet for 30 days and then try to reintroduce it. They might also suggest doing a low FODMAP diet, which if you're not familiar with that diet, I'll link it down below. But again, a lot of GI doctors suggest this. And basically you will follow this very strict protocol of very, very specific foods and then reintroduce the foods that you normally eat one by one to see if they cause any upset. The downside to this is that you don't have a lot of control when it comes to things like eating out or like eating at someone's house. You may accidentally take something in that you're not sure what's in it. You know, like you can't verify in a restaurant or something like that every single ingredient that they're using unless you like really want to be a pain in the ass. But you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of room for error, unfortunately. And I think a lot of times when people do these at-home sensitivity tests, they're hoping to get a clear answer. And I just want to make sure that people understand they're not actually diagnosing food allergies with these at-home sensitivity tests. So as a nutrition client, what should you do then, right? It's very overwhelming. It can be very confusing. And in my personal experience, I advise clients normally to keep a journal or a log of times where they have any type of flare-ups, any type of reactions to things, and we want to keep a log of that for at least 30 days before deciding what to cut. And the reason why is because in my experience, if you cut everything at once, it's hard to tell what was causing the issue. And that's kind of where introducing it one by one comes into play. But you can do it the other way where you eliminate only one thing at a time, and that way you know right off the bat when you eliminate it and then reintroduce it if it was that thing or not. So it kind of just depends on obviously your lifestyle, the time that you have, the effort that you're willing to put into an elimination diet, all of the above. But it is really important obviously for you to seek out professional help. I am not a doctor. I am not diagnosing with anything. And it's also important to note that the Everlywell test kit cannot diagnose, treat, or anything of the sort. So if you do believe that you have a true food allergy or sensitivity, I would suggest obviously going to a doctor to get an IgE test for allergies. But if you're just looking to help any type of symptoms, whether that's IBS, migraines, or any of the symptoms that they advertise on Everlywell, it definitely would be beneficial for you to start by eliminating something that you think may be causing you the discomfort. So in the Everlywell sensitivity test, I have it up on my phone here, they categorize things as high, moderate, or mild reactivity ranges based on like a little bar graph, and you can sort it by foods or reactivity. So basically they have it on this scale, and they do say, like for example, I was sensitive to cow's milk, which obviously I knew, so that was a correlation. But it says this doesn't mean you're lactose intolerant. You may just have a sensitivity to cow's milk. IgG antibodies react only to proteins, and intolerances to lactose, a sugar, can't be diagnosed by this test. So I do like that at least they're giving you that information when you log in to view your results. It also tells you some hidden sources where you can find sensitivities that you may not know you're taking in. Like if you were sensitive to cow's milk and you didn't know that like sour cream had cow's milk in it, I don't know, something like that. I do like that it tries to give the consumer as much information as possible. I think that's great. But then it also showed I had mild reactivity to 18 other foods, some of which I don't eat at all. But like for example, salmon is on there, although it was on the lower end. That's something that I know personally doesn't cause me any type of symptom whatsoever. No like physical symptoms, no stomach upset. So that's kind of one of those things where I was like, oh, okay, not really sure about that. And same with some of the other things. I couldn't even tell you the last time I've eaten an eggplant. So I just think that's really interesting. Same with brewer's yeast and barley grain. So you can kind of sort through these, and then you can also see the 77 other normal reactive foods that you have, or whatever number that is. So I think that's cool. You can save it as a PDF, and they do also explain how to do the quick elimination diet and the phase elimination diet, which I was just talking about. So it's kind of up to you. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I know this is a lot of information, a lot of things to consider, but it really just depends on what you're looking for. Food sensitivity tests have zero correlation to weight loss, other than the people who cut out an entire group of food, therefore reducing their overall calories, putting you in a caloric deficit and making you lose weight. But there is no direct correlation between food sensitivity and fat loss. So if you are looking to do a food sensitivity test for the sake of fat loss, I would suggest against it. But if you are looking just because you're curious and you want to know what type of IgG responses you have to certain foods, I mean, why not? It can't hurt. But overall, I would say there's definitely a few different ways to go about it. It's kind of just, up to you and what works for your lifestyle and the amount of dedication you're willing to give to the process. So I hope this video was helpful and informative. If it was, I would super appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up and click that subscribe button. And I will see you on Monday and Thursdays with Manders.